Welcome back to another episode of Vibe Talks. Today's talk, we are going into death and the afterlife. I've recently asked my guests to watch either Upload from Amazon or the Black Mirror episode San Junipero. And we have AJ. And
Hi.
we have Michelle for our guest for today.
Shalom.
Fortunately, we couldn't get one of our other guests who is also very well versed into the death and afterlife. We're going to start it off with a little bit of an interesting question for everyone right now. What is your preferred way you'd want to die?
Can I be truthfully honest with everyone?
Yes.
I want to die between a girl's legs. Like I want her to squeeze my head like a watermelon.
Understandable.
Like that's actually how I want to die. Like I don't want to
find that Amazon woman and her legs are just like extremely buff, and you're
Death
like,
by
I'm
Snoo
going
Snoo,
in.
Death by Snoo Snoo. No,
Death by
serious. No,
Snoo
I'm
Snoo.
being 100%
literally.
serious. I want her to squish my head like a watermelon. All right. Like I don't want to die old and in a bed surrounded by family. Fuck that. I want to die living my life. All right. And I'm being 100% with that too. Like that's just how I want to die.
Michelle, what is your preferred death?
Honestly, I just live each day to the fullest. If I die, I die. I don't really care how I die.
No preferred way of death?
There's not really a preferred way. Like, it can be slow and painful. It can be fast. I really do not care. When I die, I die. It's gonna happen. You can't avoid it. It is what it is. That's life.
See, how would I want it? Not to be close to AJ's, but it would probably more of like I would have to go into a blaze of glory.
Yeah, thanks,
like if I know I'm going to die. You know that, like, I'm going to bring this up because I don't know if anybody knows anything about, remembers the show, Regular Show, where they send off the golf cart with fireworks and shit. I want that. I want that type of death. Off a mountain, right when I'm about to die, push me off the cliff in a golf cart, and then fireworks in a blaze of glory.
I understand that. I feel that. Yeah.
I could see that. I could see you doing that. Especially you. Yeah, I can see you winning that fucking car, and you're like, you know what? I know I'm gonna die in this accident. I'm going full force. Just slams on the fucking gas.
And I mostly wanted to ask this question because we are going to go into more of a deeper and darker side, and still want people to know this is still going to be a light thing, but it's more of what would you want to die in?
Yeah,
like as the
like,
viewer, how would you want to die? Like I know we all fear death to an extent, but
I don't
nah,
really
man.
care.
I welcome the void.
Yeah, I straight up
Right.
welcome it. Me and AJ welcome it. But we're not normal people.
Look,
though.
Roy.
Like,
I've lived my life. I've traveled the world. I've seen shit. I've seen everything I want to see. I'm ready. I welcome death at this point. Honestly, I'm still young. Don't get me wrong. I still want to live, but
like,
if I die, I die. Honestly,
the one thing I would love to do before I die, I want to open up a gluten-free restaurant. That's about it. That is my last goal in life. Is that and once that happens, I can die happy. But I don't care if I do or not.
Now let's go into our views of death. Where do you think we all go when we die? This is your own personal view. There's no wrong answers. There's no right answers.
all right, Michelle, go first. I have a kind of lengthy one.
Okay. Well, there's many things that can possibly happen. With me, I probably would either want to be reincarnated or just to haunt people. Can you know how fun that would be? You just stay here and you're like, ooh, I'm spooky. Ooh. Ooh, and anyone that screwed you over in your life and they're still alive, you can be like, ooh, fuck you, ooh. I would love doing that. Like, I would hands down love being either a demon or a spirit messing with people. Hands down.
Your belief of the afterlife is still remaining on Earth or being reincarnated.
Yes. they're both forms staying on Earth, but I mean, I guess in technicality, reincarnation, you could probably end up in another plane.
True.
So that is a possibility.
And
Okay,
now, AJ.
so I have a little snippet before I tell you my side. Um, I got real stoned the other day, and I was contemplating a couple things. Um, and think about when your parents conceived you, how if your dad just decided to wait like a week, you would not be you because a different sperm would have been born. So in that sense, going back to the question you asked, I honestly think we just return to nothing. We just go to pitch black, and we just start. If there is carnation, we just start the
You
cycle
just
over again.
somehow turn back into that one
Uh,
specific sperm cell.
we literally become dust. Like because like in retrospect to the universe, we are such a tiny speck. We just become dust. So I just think we just go to a black void. But saying that, I also want to believe in reincarnation and afterlife. But I mean, honestly, my belief right now is black void. Sorry, a little
Yeah,
snippet.
that's your own belief. That again, there's no wrong or right answer to this. It's just how do you see death? This is
Yeah,
just
just
more of my is just trying to get people to understand of how do you see death? How do we perceive death from other people's perspectives?
yeah, in my it's just a black void. After you die, you die. There's nothing more.
And when it comes to me, this is like more of a fickle thing. I believe that there is some type of heaven and or hell that exists. There is. I don't believe we end up just in the dirt. I believe there's something that's either keeping us on this planet, because I do believe in that there's like the ghosts and everything. There's remnants of people's beings existing on our planet, repeating what they've lived, and it's fascinating because if they're still here, there has to be something where they're
Yeah.
going.
With people still being here, it's like after my stepmom's parents died, legit doors started opening and closing in the house I'm in on their own, as if and it's the rooms they were in all the time, the stuff they would have done. It's like such their type of routine, and you're just
Yes.
like, huh? Clearly, we know who is here, because they are just doing what they would have done normally.
Well, I was gonna say
Exactly.
in the instance of like paranormal activity and like ghost, I've had many instances with these like
Yeah.
type of situations.
Yes, we
Uh,
have.
one of the stories I'm more fond with my family is my sisters we used to share a room when they were growing up. Uh, both my sisters heard a voice coming from the closet saying, "Hey, hey, can I play with your ball? Can I play with your ball?" And then the ball would start bouncing in their closet, and that's an actual story. Another one I've had was there used to be this white figure that walked my hallways when I was a kid in my old home. If you left your door open, he would stand in your doorway.
Huh.
He's
I've
just
I've
he's just casually suited me. I'm like, hello there.
I personally have not experienced any paranormal activities, but my family has. Um, I
Mm.
believe my parents, they were on like some road trip or something, and they started smelling this like like some perfume that one of my grandmas would wear, and they were like they literally pulled over because they couldn't figure out where the smell was coming from. They had no idea. They looked everywhere inside the vehicle to like find where the source of the smell was. Uh, Once they like gave up, they drove up ahead. There was an accident that happened up ahead, and if they hadn't pulled over, they would have been in that accident. So I believe they were protected by someone from our family, like a spirit, and
Mm.
that's where like I still believe that there's somewhere there we has to be going somewhere if our spirits are remaining to protect our loved ones and or just haunting people.
I mean, as Roy knows, I've practiced many different things that not everyone would, and there is definitely other beings.
Yeah.
There's no true way of getting evidence from them because I mean they're just souls there. So like, how are you gonna get proof of that?
Yeah.
Like we have nothing that can actually get physical proof of it, and they are there. There's some that will do you good, and there's some that will screw you over because they're pissed off that they died. Like
Oh yeah.
it is definitely a thing that happens.
Especially when if it comes to like a wrongful death.
Oh yeah, especially with wrongful deaths. A lot of wrongful deaths people get like because imagine you died by your loved one because they were doing something behind your back with someone else and you walked in and that guy was like, "Who is this?" and shoots you because they thought that that was her place or something like that, even though it was yours.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you be pissed off in the end of that?
Oh, definitely.
So why wouldn't you want to stay here just to try and get a sense of revenge?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, like
definitely.
that would really it's
I
the
I think my experiences with like the other like other side and spirits and everything. Like I said, like we've had playful spirits in my house before,
and we've had
where
some not so playful ones.
where they like they're just kids. They're just running around, playing around,
Oh yeah.
doing things they would do normally if they were alive. Uh, when I've had this experience all my life growing up, I've also had some like really dark figures in my life.
Yes. Yes,
More
for sure.
recently, more recently, when I get home from like work and stuff, if all the lights are off in my house, there's I want to say like burnt after effect. If you look straight into my room from my front door, you see this like skinny skinny black figure standing in my room, who has like it's just this like it's this like really tall skinny black figure who's just standing in my room looking around. And it's honestly creepy, but I mean on it after that, I mean there's nothing to be afraid of. Like most of the spirits I've encountered have been generally just they don't do anything. They're just there, just wandering. Amen.
Except that one that kept fucking with
Words,
my PC. Fuck him.
words. But I've also had spirits who fuck with me.
Yeah.
Um, I've had spirits who just decide to turn off my Xbox, to pull the plug, like literally just pull the plug out of the outlet.
And you're just like, why?
Yeah, I'm
Why
like,
did you do
why?
this?
When I've had spirits literally like flicker the flickered TVs and lights, but it like you look into another room, nothing's happening, just the room that you're in. It's happening in, which is but I mean,
I mean, that reminds me of whenever I was over at your place, full on brought my desktop and everything, remember?
yeah.
Because I would do that a lot. I would full on carry my 75-pound desktop downstairs, outside, into AJ's car, and be like, all right, let's go. And this one spirit just was so fascinated with my PC, not even AJ's, no, just mine. I would turn it off. I would leave the room because I'm one of those people who shuts down my computer. It would be turned back on and logged in when I got back, and I'm like, "What the
I
fuck,
st- I still
AJ?
do
Did you do this?" And you're like, "No, why?"
I still do deal with that scenario. Like I'll turn off my laptop when I'm done with it for the day, and then I'll come back later on and it's opened up and it has like the internet open, and I'm like, all right, man, fuck, could have just asked.
Yeah, it's like if you want to search the internet, just let me know, dude. Like I'll leave my PC on if you let me know, and I'll just leave the a tab open for you. Like,
Like and it's always
weird.
like on YouTube and stuff. So I'm like just watching YouTube. Like, what?
He wants to know what's going on in the world.
All right, I think we're kind of veering off from the topic a little bit
All right,
now.
all right.
All
Sorry,
right,
man.
so
All right.
now let's get into. I know we're approaching more into the as things progressing that we have more futuristic things going on. We are now going to be imposed to the question of virtual heavens.
Oh yeah.
We're getting approaching that. There's many things that could come up. Your digital identity. That we've had many cases in which we deal with more of digital identities after a person has died. Prime example, Tupac. Remember when they used a digital version of him for a concert?
Yeah, they did the what's it
Because
called?
his concert needed to be finished or whatever that they had planned out, and so they did a projection, didn't they?
They also had
did-
him join them on stage for a different group. I can't remember the group on the top of my head right now. But they basically have this hologram version of Tupac up there singing. And they leads into more of the digital problem of you are basically, when we die, if we do create these virtual heavens, we would have to basically sign away our digital selves to somebody. So they can hold it and transfer us to a virtual heaven where we will exist. Much in
Or we
like,
may or may not have to pay for things inside that
yes.
heaven. Which, like, could you imagine you die, go to a virtual heaven, and then having to work?
It'd also be like, if you think about it, it's almost like life insurance. Like in the series, the series Upload, they are basically doing payment plans, and it sounds a lot like life insurance. Instead of life insurance, you're paying to basically have money in the afterlife.
I could see you do that instead of you doing that, like your 401k in a sense, or life insurance. Instead of paying for life insurance, you're paying for the digital afterlife.
Yeah,
That way, when you die, you get put into it, and you already have some money in there, and then you also had a 401k started, which is all your money that you could still use in there.
yeah,
I
and
can see that.
yeah. That's how I'd imagine it would end
I
up
can see
going.
that. Because it's like you can still get life insurance if you want to die that way, but if you don't, look at this option.
And this leads into the more of the ethics question of it. Would you be able to do it? Would you want to be able to do it?
No, I don't. I don't want my after
mean-
image to be stick around. Once I'm gone, I'm gone. I mean, yeah, I would. You know, if it was a way that I could live my life out through that, I might be willing to do it. But like, if it's just my after image and it's not me, no, sorry, you don't get to
Like,
use.
the
You don't
only
get to use
way
my being, my who I was, to gain profit or to like in Tupac's sense to like finish off with something. No, you
Yeah.
don't get to do that. Once I'm gone, I'm gone. Now, if it's still me consciously, like just in a virtual world, I might be willing to do that.
Yeah, you'd be basically signing your.
I would be down to live in a virtual world. All I would do is play League.
Yeah, you'd
What am I
basically
gonna do?
selling.
Die in there? I'm not gonna die in there.
How they do it in like an Upload, to give an idea for our viewers, is that they end up setting up these payment plans that their family is going through, and it's kind of like a cell phone service in a sense. They're paying for it, and they get like a certain data plan and how much they can use, such as like create memories, understanding, reading, stuff like that. And it's very interesting in the sense that these people are paying like coffee for a digital coffee inside of like their heaven, and it's very interesting the way they describe that it makes them feel more human in the sense in these digital world. I don't know if I would be able to do that. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I could
feel like
pay.
it's just dependent on the circumstances and how they go about doing it. I want it unless it was done right in like the way I could see it being done.
And it also comes
But
down
that's just
to
more the creator in me.
I'm also going to switch it over to San Junipero, the other ethics question of suicide, assisted suicide. When you're on life, like on your last few legs, would you be willing to pull the plug to go into a virtual heaven?
If my body was failing me and I was in that situation, yeah, I would
I
want.
would.
I would want. I don't want to have the burden of my family keeping me alive on life support.
Like,
As
if
my
they're
body.
paying for something, pay for me to be in a virtual world instead of life support.
Yeah.
Because I could imagine they probably cost the same.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's not even like the cost the same thing. I don't care. I like it's the burden on my family. You know, having my family see me there every day in a broken state.
In ICU, barely getting by, don't know if you're gonna continue living or not. Yeah.
I don't want that burden on my family. I'd rather just pass on. And if I do have the option to go to the virtual, I'll be like, yeah, give me my second life. If not, even though if not, still pull the plug. I don't want to be a burden on my family like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just pull the plug. I'd rather die quick than suffering very longly in a hospital of all places. If it wasn't a hospital, I probably wouldn't care.
And when it comes to we talked about our ideal death. Let's talk about our ideal virtual heaven. If we could do it, and we were able to do it, and like it.
We wouldn't have to eat realistically, right?
Yes, but
world.
in how they do it in like Upload, they make it to where you can eat. It's just they have the taste buds and everything. Like they basically, if you were alive, but you're in this virtual space, they apparently do it just because
I could eat
it makes you feel
again.
more human.
I could eat bread again.
Yeah, technically
Dude.
you could customize it to where you could eat anything and possibly be anyone on how they set it in Upload.
So me living with celiacs, that would be like changing.
Yeah.
I would do it just for that. Like, if I knew I was gonna die and if I went to a virtual world, I could eat like whatever type of gluten filled meal I wanted, I would be like, yes. Because I don't remember what bread tastes like anymore. It's been over 7 years. I can't remember.
It's not that good, to be honest. Just bread. Fuck
But
you,
compared
bread.
to gluten-free bread, though.
But an ideal heaven, a virtual ideal heaven.
Yeah, for you.
Probably just be, I'd say, just online, like a VR kind of experience where you get to be with your like friends, like the video game VR chat.
Yeah.
So like that, so you get to run around as your avatar and play games with your friends and stuff.
Imagine VR chat add in a feature so you could like do that, like cross-platform in a sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what they do in Upload. They do have that episode in which you see these like dead avatars. That's what they like would end up referring to them, interacting with people in like the VR world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my perfect.
I would like that. That would be cool.
Because then I
just want to play League.
I was gonna say, if I'm dead and I'm in that situation, I could be like, oh hey, I'm gonna hit up Michelle today, be like, hey, you want to play some League? And then like, but have it so advanced, like technology, like in an advancement that instead of like playing the character, we become the character and play him. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, no, that would actually kind of be
cool. I could see fucking Roy as Ramus rolling around. And like I'm going fucking in, guys. I'm going fucking in.
Yeah, but that would honestly be my paradise.
And to go back into where they were talking about, where like in Upload they have the digital rights. One of the cases that really it's a real thinker of like how would you handle this situation. It was a boy in this like virtual heaven who's been in there for I think like almost, he died at like 9. He's been in there for almost like 7 years, should basically be almost...
He should be 18 or something.
Yeah, like
now.
he should be almost 18, but they never age his avatar to where he can be an adult. And he always has this like kid mentality when he's supposed to be almost an adult. And it's like, at what point does this help the grieving process? Is it a good idea to keep having the child?
I definitely think it shouldn't
I
be.
feel like it should age.
If they, first of all, they should definitely age, because staying as a child, your mentality would stay a child. If you never
especially
grow up,
when you're supposed to be dead but you're in heaven.
Yeah, if you never grow up, you'll never experience, quote unquote, a life. In the sense, like, he's already dead. Honestly, if a kid dies, I don't think they should go to the virtual heaven. The virtual heaven should be for some, like, in an instance, somebody who has lived their life as experience and knows what, being an adult is like.
Yeah.
Instead of being forced to be stuck there as a kid forever. Because
in my personal opinion, how this, like, if a kid ends up getting sent into these virtual heavens, I believe it would harm the grieving process. You're never able to cope with the fact that they've died. You just keep the image of this boy that you can contact at any time in this virtual heaven, that it's basically the same person that you saw 7 years ago.
And same thing goes. Remember, he gets to see his brother grow up also.
Have a girlfriend, have like relationship,
like, and you don't get any of that in Upload. He just is stuck as he is,
and he never gets to fully experience, like we see that his best friend that he guarantees would always be there for him. He never got to fully experience that drifting apart that happens, and between friends as they grow up, and he just stays in that mentality. And it just harms him, and I believe it just more harms the grieving factor, because they refuse to age his avatar, because they basically legally owned his identity in the digital world. And it's like, with like death in itself, we should accept the fact that we are going to die. We need to accept that it eventually is going to happen. We're not going to be immortal beings, no matter how close we think we are or how close we or get close to it. It's still the fact that we're still mortal, and we need to accept the fact that death is a thing. And so much of our culture either fears death or loves it and celebrates it, much like in the Hispanic community, Day of the Dead. We remember the dead, we love the dead, we remember who they were, we give them them offerings for whenever they were alive, they loved. And I believe with a virtual heaven, it cuts that out, and you lose respect for the dead. You see them more as a being. I don't want to say being, more of like an object that you can look back and interact with.
Yeah,
which I feel like would cause you a very weird grief.
I also think about, like, I mean, obviously they're dead, but think about them. Like, how would they cope? I mean, in Upload, they have the therapy dog.
Yes.
In one of the episodes, to help cope with the process of living in that world. But think about it, like in the kid situation, like, yeah, he gets the help from the sorry, words are escaping my mind. Can't think. He gets help from the he gets help from the psychiatrist therapist. But think about it, he's still a kid that had to like wreck his mind somehow, and then like in that instance when he realized where he was and what was going on, how did he cope with it internally? You know, as a kid, in his mind, I don't think he could understand what was going on.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, imagine your last memory is you're about to die, then all of a sudden you're in a digital world.
Yeah,
that would be trippy as fuck as a kid.
Along with the fact that he's in there for 7 years as a child.
Yeah, that's just messed up.
That is fucked up. They really
Like permanently like 9 years old, stuck in that world. Never aging, never growing facial hair, never seeing body hair or anything like that. Just stuck watching his family get older and his brother getting older, his younger brother getting older.
Yeah.
And the parents refusing to age him to where he has to try to go to the like digital black market so he could age himself up.
That's just nuts. Honestly.
That's fucked up.
And that's where it comes into like them being able to like it doesn't have the grieving process, and it's the fact that you're basically digitally owned by your family, because in the series upload they can delete them at any moment, throw them away if they really wanted to.
They can even get them put on a hard drive.
Yes, and a hard drive to be moved, quote unquote, moved to a different heaven if they basically don't have the finances for it. And
which imagine being moved from a great heaven to like a shitty heaven.
A shittier heaven, yeah.
Like 24-bit quality compared to 32-bit quality, and you're like, oh no.
And
or even worse.
There's like so
Can
many.
you imagine getting put into an 8-bit world?
Yikes.
Ugh. Yeah. Like you go from like 4K life like to
16-bit heaven.
Like you would be like, what is going on? Because you would fall asleep, then wake up in a different heaven.
I was gonna say, honestly, that would probably be my hell, to be honest.
You're trapped in a world like Mario.
In a 16-bit world.
That would suck. That would suck.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I don't know how I would feel, because in Upload they do show that the main character has a relationship with his quote-unquote wife.
Who's crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She's absolutely bonkers. If you haven't seen this show, it's great. But
we advise you watch it before watching this specific podcast, because it will help you understand a lot.
Oh yes. With her being like alive and him being dead, death do us part in quote unquote marriage is basically non-existent, because
you can just be like, haha, you're still alive in a sense.
Yeah. It's like, do you guys break up? Do you get a divorce? Or do you guys still carry on as though like nothing happened? Like you just didn't die or didn't just attend your funeral? And that's where I'm like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't know if I would be able to fully upload myself onto these digital heavens with dealing with something like that, because the whole point of death do us part is just once we die, we die. There's the marriage is basically done for.
Null void.
Null and void.
Yeah.
And that way you can continue moving on with your life if you are willing to.
Yeah. And also I feel like when it comes to marriage, I feel it's those things where you're sharing your life with somebody, but once our lives are done for, it's time to gain a new experience. It's time to do something different. I feel like if I was managed to be uploaded, I'd probably go polyamorous, because there's no need for us to be with one person if we're going to be here for an eternity.
Yeah. I would totally, like, if I was still married and the laws were like, well, you're dead, but you're technically still alive in a virtual beings, so the marriage is still legal, I would just full on be like, be poly, live your life, date other people, don't get stuck with me. I'm stuck in a virtual world. I'll be waiting for you when you're here as well. Like, that's how I would see it. And who knows, you might even find someone you like in the virtual world also.
Yeah. And it's the fact that life is so finite that there's no reason for us to keep sharing that life in another life with somebody for an eternity. And I feel it kind of ruins the fact of marriage, the idea of marriage, of where we supposed to be with one person. And I feel like in this virtual world, we need to be more polyamorous, because it's eventually going to get annoying and it's going to get boring real fast.
Could you imagine being with the same person for the rest of your life? Like, legit, until...
Like, for eternity.
Like, until the servers are dead for whatever reason? So
yeah.
basically, until the end of the real world, you're stuck there with them? Until the end of time?
That's where I feel like... I don't know. It's just... It's too...
There would be a lot of arguments that would happen.
Oh yeah, there'd be a lot of arguments. Things would get stale pretty fast. Like, emotionally, physically, sexually, a whole bunch of shit where it's just... At some point, you just gotta go polyamorous. It'd get too boring too fast.
It really would.
I don't want to ruin the quote-unquote sanctity of marriage, but when there's virtual heavens at stake, it kind of you already in itself ruins the sanctity of marriage. Because how I've seen marriage, it becomes more of a thing of we're sharing our experience with something that we will end up creating, like a child or so. We're passing on our experiences to them and hoping they can make a good life for themselves. And then once that's said and done, comes death, we part our ways, and that's the end of it. And that continues on into the eternity part of a virtual heaven. I don't know.
Because you are legit stuck there for the rest of the time at that point.
Oh yeah. But I also go on.
Cut my life in the virtual heaven. Yeah, I'm done with this place.
I mean, you can.
Yeah, you could probably request. Yeah, I'm done living.
Can you imagine SAO?
Yeah, no.
That's kind of how that would be in a sense, though.
Yeah, it would.
I'm basically in a video game I can't log out of.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's virtual reality that you can't log.
You die in there, you die.
That's another concept. Like, once if you die in your afterlife, do you die for ever?
I also do want to bring up the whole fact of this virtual afterlife and meeting other people. Could you imagine the types of different people you could meet? The different types of different people that you wouldn't consider it dating because of their age. But when it comes to virtual heaven, it's why does it matter? Age doesn't exist. You could be as old or as young.
Oh, why you gotta take it like that?
Wait. Does that mean lollies would be a thing in a sense?
Lollies would be a thing, yes.
Technically, yes. I wasn't hinting towards that, but I was saying more of the fact that you could date someone way older and they look like they were in their 20s. That's my point. I was aiming towards.
I understand the point, but I was like, wait a second.
And then theoretically, yes, you could do lollies in these virtual heavens.
You know Jake would be in heaven with that.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't think anybody would pass up a good lolly.
Okay, just to state for our viewers, this is all theoretical.
What?
This is all theoretical. Please take this with a grain of salt. I'm just talking about the what ifs.
We're saying with a grain of salt. We're just speaking hypothetically.
Can you take mine with a grain of pepper?
A grain of pepper.
Grain of pepper.
But yes, what I was getting at is that you could theoretically date someone way older than you, somebody who'd basically be in their almost 200s, but look like they're in their 30s or 20s.
Yeah. But like once again, you're already in that state where yeah, you're living for that as like basically infinite. Age is just a number at that point because all it is just experience after that.
Yeah.
And experience in a world where you don't age.
Yeah, that's basically that's what that
go?
is. It's where age is literally just a number and eternity is an
There'd be
eternity.
so many wise people in there.
Could you imagine the amount of stories you could hear in there? Like the
Just like
amount of experiences.
Yeah. The sheer amount of like experience people have gone through their lives and how like their experiences changed them to the point where they ended up there.
Oh yeah.
Like because everybody will have a different story. Everyone lives a different life, and you imagining them, sitting around like in a virtual campfire or whatever, and telling you stories of how they used to live, how their life was, sharing stories with other people, learning experiences, learning tales, pretty much infinite knowledge. You're gaining infinite knowledge at that because you're just you're learning and you're listening to people's stories and how they lived.
Yeah. And I think that would be a little cool to experience that. But
I honestly I think I'd get bored after a while.
yeah, no, eventually you'd get bored, but that's why I'd say you'd have to go like polyamorous because eventually, because like let's assume like all of our sexual organs will be still functioning and we still have like libidos. I'd imagine it'd still be entertaining more to be polyamorous in this world than continue on with like a single marriage.
Yeah.
And another thing is going into in this theoretical world where virtual heavens do exist, would you be able to deny somebody who still believes in the old fashioned heaven in the sense though the words of Upload, they call it the old fashioned heaven as opposed to the new heaven?
You mean deny them as in like uh
Force them into,
to the virtual heaven?
yes, as opposed to them believing in their natural heaven.
I that's where it comes to be back to
yeah,
signing away your rights.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, of course, if you believe in the natural heaven, no, you don't have to. Like you can say no, I don't want to go there, and I just want to die peacefully and not be implanted into the virtual heaven. And if they go against what you willed in life, and or like what you willed that's what you wanted to do is pass peacefully without being digitized.
Yeah.
uh I'm expecting the government to take in at that point, and
Yes.
like higher ups, like in your if your family respected your wishes too, like they would take it to like courts and shit if somebody
Forced.
forced you
Mhm.
into that situation. But now then again, we don't live in a perfect world because scummy shit like that happens all the time,
Oh yeah.
where you want something, like you want something to happen, but people go behind your back and do the opposite. It's just how this world works.
I just thought of something else. It goes back into the whole Tupac thing of the digital identity. We would get into a point where musicians and like these pop singers, pop boy bands, any type of bands could eventually get into a point where they end up signing their digital themselves in these contracts because the music industry in itself is pretty scummy, but signing them into these contracts where they permanently have to perform even when they die to the fans.
Oh yeah, like
yeah.
artists and shit. Like they'd basically be giving up their entire life
Mm-hmm.
if they signed this kind of contract, because like
I
even
could see a
after,
lot of K-pop agencies doing that to make them still do
Mm-hmm.
music
That's
for
what
a
I was
show.
thinking.
but then that rolls back into the legal side, like would it morally and legally be right to or like wouldn't at that point wouldn't a like you would sign the contract for that. So at that point you're making the decision to do that.
But then it goes into the more of the legal trouble of trying to get yourself out of it whenever you're like, because this is assuming this is the music industry, and we already. I would like to believe some people believe that the music industry is scummy in itself and how it functions.
Yeah,
that's more food for thought. I believe we've run our time on this topic because we talked a good bit about everything. Do we have any final closing thoughts on the death and the afterlife? Maybe how you die, where we go, and or virtual heavens?
I mean, if I try drinking rock stars and end up in a virtual heaven, I can drink more rock stars.
Now
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, I have a question for you guys, and this is going to extend on similar topics as we're talking about.
Yeah.
What is a conscience? In what definition do you think a conscience is?
I believe it comes into our sentience, our self-awareness of who we are.
Okay, Michelle.
Your sentience, that's in a sense your soul, who you've been your whole life. Even if you were like reincarnated, that's your essence. That's who you are.
I was gonna say, but sentience. I mean, because if a conscience is your sentience, does that mean animals don't have conscience? Because they're not technically they're living creatures, but they're not
Sentient.
like us.
Yeah.
So does that mean animals don't have conscience?
I would like to believe not, because it's more of instincts when it comes to certain things. The only thing I would say close enough to like sentience,
like people refer to that
you say that, but like you say instincts, but like a dog will mourn if its owner passes. That's a self decision that the dog's making to mourn for somebody other than its own race.
I believe,
like I
when it comes to that, they have to understand the concept of a loss.
And animals do understand the concept of losses.
I don't believe fully. I believe it's more of a taught thing to animals. Like, I'm gonna do a quick anecdote. There was a gorilla that was learned ASL, and they were teaching this gorilla death. Literally letting this gorilla know that it is mortal, that it can die and will die.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, the gorilla got very depressed and started hiding under a cloak. You can literally find this video up on YouTube or somewhere. Search up gorilla that knows ASL. It's taught death.
Well, that's completely yeah. Of course, it would get depressed because it's like us when we're born. We're taught like things. We're basically animals, but we have a higher understanding because we're taught by the older generation.
Yeah.
So you think so take that gorilla who learned ASL, grows up and accepts death as its part. It's like as we do, and then teaches its younger generation the same thing. Eventually, the gorilla's race will have, in your definition, conscience.
Yes.
So, what was the turning point for humanity that we had the conscience?
I don't know. But that isn't that topic for this episode.
We're done. But yeah,
But
It's like to
it's food for
continue
thought for our
next
viewers
episode
to
of
ponder.
Dragon Ball
Ball
Z.
Z.
Maybe we'll cover this topic more in depth on another episode of Vibe Talk. But for today's episode, we were talking about death and the afterlife. What are your thoughts? You think we just are in the dirt? How would you like to die? That's what I'd like to know from you guys.
Death by snoo snoo.
See y'all in the next.
I still really don't have an actual way I would die. Just
No.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Catch y'all later in the next episode where we talk about fanboys.